Have you heard this song? This is Bad Apple featuring Nomiko. And if you said yes to the question that started this video, you've already been introduced to the Touhou fandom. First released in 2007 on the album Love Light by Astromeria Records, the iconic shadow video most people would be familiar with would not come until 2 years later, in October of 2009. As of recording, the original Nico Nico video upload has over 30 million views, while its YouTube repost has over 74 million. With its catchy melody, surprisingly dark and serious lyrics, and honestly timeless animation, it's little wonder that this has become one of Touhou's most recognizable fanworks. But it's not just the original that has captured the internet's interest by storm. It's the fact that people have decided to play it everywhere possible. And by everywhere, I mean everywhere. How about Bad Apple played on the YouTube homepage? A graphic calculator, slices of a volume, Minecraft sheet, CSGO bullet holes, Discord messages, a computer from 13 years before Touhou even existed. The list goes on and on. But Bad Apple alone isn't why I consider Touhou the most determined fandom. After all, even though it is iconic, you'd only recognize the silhouettes if you already know Touhou. There are tracks that more directly showcase what Touhou is about. To begin with, Touhou is a very musical game series, owing to its incredibly talented composer, who we will get to later. Each stage and boss is given a unique theme, so with around 7 of each in each of the main series games, you get a mountain of music that's already really good. That means there's a lot for fans to tap into. If you're a rhythm game enthusiast, it's difficult not to see Touhou songs in games. It has official collabs with Mustache and Taiko no Tatsujin, both of which feature fan songs and, more specifically, Bad Apple. It's just that popular. But even outside of official capacity, you're bound to run into songs on other games like Osu and The Dance of Fire and Ice due to chargers making Touhou remixes incredibly difficult. Have you ever played or seen other players do the song Galaxy Collapse by Kurokote? How about Night of Nights by Cool and Create? If so, you may not have even realized that they're both Touhou remixes. The usual wheelhouse of rhythm game Touhou songs seems to be the aforementioned Bad Apple, Galaxy Collapse, and Night of Nights, as well as some form of Nico Fantasia and Cherno's Perfect Math Class. And the last is a perfect example of one of the most popular genres of Touhou remixes, that being comedic or meme ones. The circle that created Cherno's Perfect Math Class, IOSYS, has some of the biggest heavy hitters in that genre. Early Touhou fans should be more than familiar with Marissa Stole the Precious Thing and Overdrive, which I am not reading the full title of. I'm not well versed in early 2000s Japanese internet humor, so I couldn't explain Overdrive even if I wanted to. Another notable circle is Silver Forest, who made Karen Destiny, as well as Petan Petan Suru Petan. The latter is a particularly interesting example because it references Higurashi no Naku Koroni by 7th expansion. I never really got into it, but I'm a huge fan of Umineko no Naku Koroni, a different part of the When They Cry series. That might be a video essay for another time. Apparently though, 7th expansion liked Petan Petan Suru Petan so much that they put it directly into Umineko. A character, Jessica, not only cosplays as Marissa, but performs the song in canon, and furthermore uses it as her meta attack in the Umineko fighting game. And while, yes, several of these songs are on the older side, the Touhou fandom still has tracks that go viral until now. One recent example is the original music comes from the album Gensokyo Misogi Barai by Astrotrip way back in 2009, but made a massive resurgence thanks to an MMD video by MTB. There are even more remixes and arranges that I could go into, but we just don't have the time to go down each rabbit hole. I'm also not that willing to risk YouTube yanking ad revenue away, since my massive YouTube following scares companies away from sponsoring me. Music is best explored personally anyway, but once again, it's not just the music either. This may come as a shock to the uninitiated, but Touhou isn't an anime. Despite its sheer popularity, Touhou has always remained a game series without any official anime adaptation. So, of course, fans made their own. Perhaps the most famous is Musokakyo, A Summer's Day Dream produced by Maikaze. Now, this wasn't just an amateur production. Maikaze had brought together a star-studded cast of voice actors that created a fair bit of buzz back in 2008. The main characters, Reimu and Marissa, were voiced by Nakahara Mai and Sawashiro Miyuki respectively. Nakahara voiced Ryugu Rena from Higurashi no Nakukoro ni, Juvia Loxar from Fairy Tail, and Furukawa Nagisa from Clannad. Sawashiro voiced Kurapika from Hunter x Hunter, Celty Sturluson from Durarara, and Raiden Shogun from Genshin Impact. This alone would be mind-boggling, but the rest of the cast includes the likes of Tanaka Rie, Yuki Aoi, Kayano Ai, Takamori Natsumi, Higuchi Yuka, and even Inoue Kikuko as narrator. It's almost hard to imagine that one of the earliest roles for these incredibly well-respected voice actresses came from a Touhou fan anime, of all things, but it's true. 4 episodes and 1 special were produced thus far, the latest episode having been completed in 2022. Far be it from Touhou fans to be satisfied with just one adaptation, of course. This is Fantasy Kaleidoscope Memories of Phantasm by Manpuku Jinja. It doesn't have the same star power as Musokakyo in its cast, but has overtaken others as a so-called Touhou anime due to the breadth of its coverage. It has a whopping 17 episodes covering the storylines of the first 7 Windows Touhou games. Other than some lore deviations and the exclusion of some fan-favorite characters from later games, it's the most comprehensive animated retelling of Touhou stories. Another notable project is Hifu Club Activity Record, the sealed esoteric history, this time by Chinese Circle Kyoto Fantasy Troupe. This takes a drastically different approach to the other two, with the title referring to the Hifu Club, which was introduced to us along with its members Renko Usami and Maribel Hearn in stories written in Touhou music CDs. They're essentially the main characters, with other storylines derived from the backstories of main game Touhou characters like Harai-san Kuguya and Sai Gyoji Yuyuko. And yeah, the VAs are famous again. Remember Kayano Ai and Inoue Kikuko from earlier? We're here again! Surprise! Once again, we're not even voicing the main characters. Maribel is voiced by Kana Hanazawa, who also voiced Tachibana Kanade from Angel Beats, Nanami Chiaki from Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair, and Kanroji Mitsuri from Demon Slayer. Renko is voiced by Kitamura Eri, who also voiced Miki Sayaka from Puella Magi Madoka Magica, Ashido Mina from My Hero Academia, and Juri in both Street Fighter V and 6. Another big deviation Hifu Club Activity Record takes is featuring original male characters, since Touhou's cast is 99% female. Of course, they're not voiced by just anybody either. They hired Chibata Hidekatsu, Inoue Kazuhiko, and Koyama Rikia to voice them. Okay, so we've established that Touhou fans will make gorgeous animation and hire VAs with characters who practically have fandoms all to themselves. But is this as far as they will go? Well... So far, many of the contributions to this point have been made by fans in the Eastern Sphere. However, there's one huge contribution from the West that has undoubtedly introduced many people to Touhou. I'm just gonna come out and say it, I love Senior Pello's brand of humor. He and Bird are probably my favorite YouTube animation channels of all time, so seeing an 8-minute long retelling of Embodiment of Scarlet Devil in Senior Pello style was honestly very exciting. Even though it's comically exaggerated in many aspects, it retains the flow of an actual playthrough of EOSD while containing details only Touhou fans would fully appreciate. From the autocollect and graze mechanics, to Pacheli's asthma, to Marissa's "I usually eat Japanese food," to Remelia's eye/bubble bullets reinterpreted as donuts, to Sanae being kicked out because she wouldn't appear and furthermore wouldn't be playable for several games yet. It's clear that this isn't just a cursory animation. It's a surprisingly comprehensive retelling from someone who obviously cares about the details. However, people might appreciate comedy in a more structured and intentional format. One such example is found over in Japan with a style known as manzai. It features a tsukomi, or a straight man, and a boke, or a funny man. Some of the best known manzai acts include Downtown and Kokoriko, who you may know from Gaki no Sukai's legendary No Laughing New Year's specials. You already know where I'm going with this. Yes, there's a Touhou version.
Touhou M1 Grand Prix.
This is Touhou M1 Grand Prix, a manzai competition series created by Arnold, formerly Yellow Zebra, where the contestants, judges, and audience are comprised of Touhou characters. There are 17 full manzai competitions, each between 1.5 to 2 hours. The very first was posted in 2008 and looked like this. Remember what I mentioned about 2000's internet humor during the music portion? Yeah. Thankfully, all of them have been remastered. In fact, you can watch the full remastered versions right here on YouTube, all with English subs provided by Ho. The full competitions aren't free, but the manzais themselves are. If you just want a quick laugh and don't care for the context, that's a great option. But personally, I like having the judging portions intact, so I paid for the standard set. Speaking as someone who actually followed some of the manzais as they were released and subbed, they're actually really funny.
いいね。二人で出ちゃう？私出たいのが、昔からやってるリポビタン G とかね。いやいや、あれ肉体派の CM よ。おいおい、肉体派じゃないの私。どこが？あんたガリガリじゃないの。あら、カチンときたねこれ私。ガリガリに見えてんのもしかして。いや、ガリガリじゃん。ねえ、泣いた。触ってみ。正解。どっちかよあんた。時間返せよ。
With 17 whole competitions, you're bound to find several skits that'll make you laugh. It's a great way to kill time. Comedy isn't the only option though. You can also spend some time playing You may have noticed that I glossed over some aspects such as the actual animation in previous sections, but that's only because I wanted to highlight it concerning all of what we've covered now. One of the biggest reasons I think Touhou is the most determined fandom is simply that they don't satisfy themselves with just one thing. If they create good music, someone will make an accompanying music video. If they create animation, they need voice actors to play the characters.
代わって私がおもてなしするよう申し付かっております。邪魔するなら妖怪だろうと人間だろうと対峙するまでよ。
If they want to make something funny, they create an entire set, whether it be competitions or memes.
Let's get a happy Bella!
You two are too young to buy here.
And there's no greater example of this not being satisfied with just one aspect than in Touhou fan games. Original music, remixes, sound effects, and voice acting to art and animation in sprite work, effects, and background. All of it is packaged together in interactive media for you to experience. Just like the music, there are so many fan games it's impossible to go through all of them, But I will point out some of the best examples I've played personally. One of my favorite fan games of all time is the Gensokyo Taisen series, made by Sanbondo. I actually grew up playing Super Robot Taisen, the other series the fan game is based off of, and I do still enjoy strategic mecha combat, even though it makes my wallet cry. I started with Super Robot Wars original generation for the GBA, and hot take incoming, I always preferred Kyosuke over Yusei, so I'm well equipped to say that it's a really good game, in large part due to some of its unique mechanics, such as the Danmaku and focus systems. Of course, part of the appeal of SRT is seeing badass attacks from badass mecha, and GST doesn't disappoint in that department. It interprets spell cards in the form of bullets into more flashy and cinematic direct attacks. I mean, just look at this. And the best part is that these animations aren't reserved just for the bosses. When you recruit them, you can perform many of those same spell card attacks on the poor suckers who stand in your way over and over again. This even applies to the final bosses. Now, you may be asking, how does it apply to final bosses? Aren't the bosses final? And why are there multiple? It's because GST is a series of 4 games, and previously featured a mechanic whereby you can transfer data from each game moving forward. I say previously because that system was rendered moot by all 4 games being collated into a complete box. But let's say you want something that deviates even more than GST. What if we took the original Touhou design and story, which by all means are already iconic, but set it in a gothic universe? These gorgeous renditions come from the Komajo Densetsu series by Frontier Aja, a fan game in the style of Castlevania. This was the original so-called Touhouvania, and although it doesn't have nearly the same level of mechanics of successors such as Touhou Luna Nights, it's still one of the most aesthetically unique and strictly Castlevania-like experiences possible. But if you don't mind the more Touhou-like art style or prioritize gameplay, look no further than the aforementioned Touhou Luna Nights by Team Ladybug. It makes great use of the ability of its main protagonist, Izuyoi Sakuya, which is time manipulation. The mechanic is so well thought out and so fun to use, letting you dodge attacks that would normally be very difficult to dodge. And the animation, my god, it's so smooth. The various attacks at your disposal, the way Marissa's hair flips when she turns, and really, the way everybody's clothes move is mesmerizing to me. But maybe action platformers aren't your thing. Maybe you want a more relaxed game where you collect characters, train them, and use them to fight in teams against other people. Yeah, there's Touhoumon. Originally starting as several different ROM hacks of official Pokemon games, devs, including Hemoglobin A1C, one of the original devs and spriters of the ROM hacks, came together in Circle Focus Lens to create a much more, well, legally distinct version called Fantasy Puppet Dance Performance. While there are obvious differences such as the fact that you're exploring the world of Gensokyo and collecting puppets of Touhou characters, there are very significant differences in battling and puppet evolutions. For starters, the typing chart has been completely overhauled, with over half of the 17 types being unique to the game. Additionally, instead of evolving, puppets change styles, usually putting more emphasis on a certain stat. All puppet species start as normal, but they can change styles to power, defense, speed, as well as extra and assist. It's legitimately a lot of fun, and I recommend people try it out. But wait, how do English speakers engage with all of this? Alright, so we have a mountain of content just waiting to be devoured, but a sizable amount of that was made by Japanese creators who, rather logically, made their games in Japanese. Me being stubborn, I do actually have experience hooking up programs to visual novels like I'm building a virtual Frankenstein because I have zero faith that these will actually be translated in any real capacity. This isn't usually a problem I run into with the Touhou fandom though. To begin with, the Touhou main games are originally in Japanese, so communities who don't speak the language have always had to rely on patches. Because of this, fans have actually made a dedicated platform for patching Touhou main games known as the Touhou Patch Center. There is an incredible spread of languages from all over the world that you can patch your game with, so chances are you'll be able to enjoy Touhou in your own language. And if your language isn't there, you can simply become a translator yourself and contribute. I also want to give special mention to the 4Kids English patch for the sheer hilarity of translating Reimu and Marissa investigating the Scarlet Devil Mansion into Rachel and Melissa searching the fast food kitchen at the old O'Hara Mansion. So there's already a culture of translation thanks to the main games necessitating it, so it's no surprise that this has spilled over to just about everything else. Sometimes this is done in a fairly official capacity, with Musokakyo from earlier being released on DVD with English subtitles proofread by another Touhou content creator, Kirby M. As mentioned earlier, Arnold worked with translator Ho on her Manzais. Most of the time, though, it's just a group of fans who knuckle down, dig through the programs themselves, and release a sub or patch into the world. This is how it was done for the Genso Shoujo Taisen series and other popular fan games, as well as many popular Touhou music tracks. And I just want to take a second to look at the enormity of what's happening here. Not only are Japanese fans so inspired by Touhou that they create amazing things in their own right across different media, but Western fans take the time to extract, read, and translate all the text and then package it into the program so that it still works. And all of this is done for free. It just boggles my mind that, for over 2 decades now, fans have put in so much effort into creating and translating things without any real expectation of being paid for their work. It's only recently that creators have started to ask for money, but we'll get into that later. But all of this leads into one question. How is this all possible? So I've talked a lot about Touhou and its fandom, but I think it's important to take a step back and look at the team that made Touhou in the first place. Touhou was, and continues to be, created by Team Shanghai Alice. It was founded in 1995 and originally known as Zunsoft, until it gained its current name in 2002. This directly correlates with the eras of Touhou, with all of the PC-98 games released under Zunsoft, and all future games released under Team Shanghai Alice. So, who are the members of a team responsible for, at the time of recording, 18 main Touhou games, 12 spin-off games, several CDs, and doujins? The first member is Zun, and he's the only member. You heard that right. He collaborates with other people occasionally, such as illustrators and publishers for print works, as well as Twilight Frontier for all of the Touhou fighting game spin-offs, as well as their most recent delve into a platforming spin-off. But every single main game, and actually quite a few of the spin-offs, are simply made by Zun. That means everything you see here was designed, drawn and/or edited, scripted, and programmed in by a single person. Even the music is entirely composed by him. To the point where fans have coined the term for his distinctive use of trumpets, Zunpits. Now multiply that by 26 games made without collaboration, and you get a sense of how ridiculously hardworking, talented, and determined Zun is. Normally I would place a picture here, but Zun has expressed sentiments against the use of his image to the point where even Wikipedia doesn't have a picture of him up, so, out of respect for his wishes, I have not done so. That being said, there's a wonderful video made by Polygon where they interviewed him and asked him to create a Super Mario Maker level. They clearly got permission to film him, so combined with him answering questions and making a level, I think it's probably the best way to see him, should you want to. I also don't want to get bogged down in the details of Zun's life because, quite honestly, it's not my place to say, nor is it particularly relevant to this video. I'd only pause to say that he's amazing for his ability to not only create great games, but for him to continue to do so for nearly 30 years now. What's important in this context, however, is Zun's attitude as a video game developer, specifically in regards to the fanworks I've been talking about this whole video. In these modern times where copyright systems are abused and big companies are looking for the tiniest sliver of their property within videos in order to claim them, it may feel strange that Touhou has a massive library of fan content. This is all possible simply because Zun actually appreciates people who want to make doujin content. I know, it's shocking. Someone understands that letting fans create things using your content leads to a thriving fan base that promotes creativity and collaboration while also promoting the base material itself. I know a few copyright lawyers must have gotten a heart attack hearing that, but it's true. Now, Zun does have a few guidelines when it comes to fan content, but they're all perfectly reasonable. The full guidelines are available online, so if you decided you wanted to make a fan work, just follow those. But one of the highlights here is the fact that if they follow all the guidelines, creators can make money. While most of the options here are admittedly constrained to Japan, one of the most popular and accessible ways to get games is via Steam, and as the guidelines state, you can distribute fan content where you can find official Touhou works. Well, Touhou 10 through 19 are all available on Steam. Remember Komajo Densetsu and Touhou Luna Nights? Yeah, you can literally buy them right now on Steam, along with a bunch of other Touhou fan games. Going back to the guidelines, when making browser and mobile games, they have to be free to play, but you're still allowed to make money from in-app ads and ad removal options. You can even profit off of Let's Play videos as long as the monetization comes from platforms' ads rather than directly selling the video. So what you get here is not only a system that allows fans to create, it's actually willing to reward fans for creating. And fans have responded in kind, pouring in time, effort, and money in their endeavors because they know they are allowed to. You may have noticed some of the games earlier having Nintendo Switch releases. Some fans have partnered with gaming publishers and gotten permission from Zun to do so, and can now truthfully say they have games on a Nintendo platform. And that ultimately brings us to the title of this video. Touhou has formed a very unique culture of permissiveness that I just haven't seen in most other properties. While Touhou and all of its characters are the exclusive property of Zun, he isn't afraid to lend them to people with common sense. Just follow the guidelines, ask Zun for permission if you want to do something with actual companies, always acknowledge that your work is a derivative of Touhou, and you're set. And it's this permissiveness that leads to the determination that Touhou fanwork creators consistently show. Instead of worrying that their projects will be struck down any minute, they can pour their hearts into making what they want to, such as a really good restaurant management simulator, and even sell it. Rather than stifling creativity, Touhou has set the perfect environment to foster it, and in turn has put forth explosions of it. These high-quality fanworks have undoubtedly inspired other people to create their own. I suppose you can consider myself in this video as an example. I started off just wanting to inform people of a series they have definitely seen content from but didn't realize it, only to have created a 30-minute or so video essay detailing just how amazing this all is. And I just can't help but think of Gensokyo, the setting of Touhou. It's a land of fantasy, where duels of beauty take place and many different abilities are showcased. Perhaps fan creators have entered Gensokyo in a symbolic sense, or perhaps Gensokyo has spilled over into the real world and inspired people. It's a beautiful thought, regardless. So, if you've made it this far, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching my video. If you enjoyed what you saw and want to see more video essays in the future, like and subscribe to become part of my Well, I guess my massive YouTube following. Is that a good fan base name? I guess it is now. Um, this technically isn't my first video, but I wasn't very happy with the direction I went in with the video I uploaded before. So I'm considering this my real start. I know it's not usual VTuber content to make video essays, but it's what I've always wanted to make, so I'm fine kind of being known as the VTuber who does that. This took actual months to put together, mostly because I had a lot to juggle, but I'm glad that it's finally out. Also, I'm super sorry if you heard mouth noises or buzzing during the recording of this, but being a broke VTuber doesn't give me the budget for a better mic. I mean, if this is successful enough, that's the first thing I'm investing in. I'm also actually planning to do a video essay slash analysis thing on Osamatsu-san, so if you're interested in that, please stick around. I'm also considering streaming from time to time. It'll most likely be building games, but hey, you can actually talk with me in a more regular VTuber format. Anyway, thanks again. Hopefully, I'll see you on the next video. Peace.